Thanks for coming back for another segment of Michigan Conservative Roundtable. TJ here, going solo. I'd like to welcome our new subscribers and to thank everyone for their support. So the fox is on the loose, and I think it's time to release the hounds on him. We all know for some time that Fox News has been on a decline. It isn't the same news channel today that it was when it was initially founded. The belief being that a change in ownership has had a negative effect on its conservative format. When that news channel was first founded, it was intended to be a counter to CNN, I'll tell you. I found the rift between Tucker Carlson and Shepard Smith interesting. You have to suspect Fox News stayed with the moneymaker. I like watching the 5 at 5, and to be honest, Juan Williams makes that a challenge. I keep waiting for the day that Fox News makes Jesse Waters and Greg Gutfeld lighten up on him. They're pretty brutal on him. Fox's acquisition of Donna Brazile was nauseating. And watching her fill in for Juan Williams on the 5 at 5 makes watching that an even more difficult task. A few times now, Bret Baier has filled in on the 5, and you can tell by his body language he just isn't comfortable with the nonsense being spewed by whatever liberal, whether it be Juan, whether it be Donna Brazile. They got a couple others that fill in, and when they start spouting their nonsense, Bret Baier's just not comfortable with it. Now their Fox reporters have chosen to displace CNN's Jim Acosta as the new press bully.
With that, I will take questions.
Kelly, if I could start off.
I'd like to ask you for a definitive and declarative statement without ambiguity or deflection. As the person who speaks for the president, does the president denounce white supremacism and groups that espouse it in all their forms?
This has been answered yesterday by the president himself, the day before by the president himself on the debate stage. The president was asked this. He said, sure, 3 times. Yesterday, he was point blank asked, do you denounce white supremacy? And he said, I've always denounced any form of that. I can go back and read for you in August 2019, in one voice, our nation must condemn racism, bigotry, and white supremacy. In August of 2017, racism is evil, and those who cause violence in its name are criminals and thugs, including the KKK, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and other hate groups. I have an entire list of these quotes that I can go through with you. He has condemned white supremacy more than any president in modern history.
Just to clear it up this morning, can you, naming it, make a declarative statement that you denounce, that the president denounces it?
I just did. The president has denounced this repeatedly. The president was asked this. You're contriving a storyline and a narrative.
I'm just asking you to put this to rest.
I just did. I read you all of the quotes, and if you need to see them in writing, I will put them in an email. Hold on.
So, Kayleigh, can you right now denounce white supremacy and the groups that espouse it?
The president has denounced white supremacy, the KKK, and hate groups in all forms. He signed a resolution to that effect. The president just last week, perhaps you all weren't covering it, but just last week expressed his desire to see the KKK prosecuted as domestic terrorists. This president had advocated for the death penalty for a white supremacist, the first federal execution in 17 years. His record on this is unmistakable, and it's shameful that the media refuses to cover it. Yes.
That was John Roberts pretending to be a reporter. He must have received some hate mail, non-complimentary email, tweets, or whatever, because like the next day he was on a show being interviewed by Melissa Francis.
And for all of you on Twitter who are hammering me for asking that question, I don't care, because it's a question that needs to be asked. And clearly, the president's Republican colleagues a mile away from here are looking for an answer for it, too. So stop deflecting. Stop blaming the media. I'm tired of it.
He's very angry. He doesn't like all the hate mail that he got. And I couldn't help but notice he was whining to a sympathetic Melissa Francis, which reminded me of a video I saw her in a few weeks back. A video in which she and a Marie Harf double-teamed Newt Gingrich.
New York City. you cannot solve this problem. And both Harris and Biden have talked very proudly about what they call progressive district attorneys. Progressive district attorneys are anti-police, pro-criminal, and overwhelmingly elected with George Soros's money, and they're a major cause of the violence we're seeing because they keep putting the violent criminals back on the street.
I'm not sure we need to bring George Soros into this.
I was going to say you get the last word, Speaker.
He paid for it. I mean, why can't we discuss the fact that millions of dollars he spent?
I agree with Melissa. George Soros doesn't need to be a part of this conversation.
Okay. So it's verboten.
All right, we're going to.
The next day, Harris Faulkner had to come out with some kind of a lame-ass apology since she was the moderator of that segment there. And basically, you know, for lack of it was a sorry excuse of an apology, I'll tell you.
So we had a little incident on the show yesterday that was not smooth. And while I was leading that segment, we had interruptions, and I sat silently while all of that played out. Also not ideal. Our guest, former House Speaker Newt Gingrich, who is beloved and needed to be allowed to speak with the openness and respect that the show is all about, was interrupted. Do we debate with fire here? Yes, but we must also give each other the space to express ourselves. As the only original member of the 6-year-old amazing daytime ride known as Outnumbered, I especially want to rock and roll with every voice and perspective at the table. We don't censor on this show, and that's why we're winning weekdays at noon.
As I was researching these videos, I came across one with Melissa Harf, and she started crying.
I am so uncomfortable having this conversation. And that's what this woman said before this, because I know what's in my heart. And I know that I don't think anyone is different, better, or worse based on the color of their skin. But I feel like there is nothing any of us can say right now without being judged. You know.
And I couldn't help but notice that who's on the set with her? Harris Faulkner and Juan Williams. The very person that makes watching the 505 nauseating. There are other Fox reporters who want in on the action.
For the news, and I like to report accurately in the news, and when the president says they found a lot of ballots in a river, I simply want to know where the river is.
No, you simply want to ignore the fact of the matter. Again,
I got asked so many questions about this and my Fox affiliates. Where is this river? And I can't give them an accurate information, and that's why I'm asking you.
This is what is happening here. Pandemic. So the media once said mail-in voting is not ready to scale up in the middle of a pandemic. Now there's no journalistic curiosity when we're finding Trump ballots cast aside. There's no journalistic curiosity when 100,000
I'm asking you where the river is, and you can't give an
were sent out in Brooklyn.
If you say the
they were
president meant
inaccurate
this,
ballots, and then
then say you meant
100,000
this.
more.
I just want to know where the river
Filibustering
is.
and lack of journalistic curiosity.
I'm very curious.
That Fox reporter was John Decker. So those are just some examples of how Fox wants to display CNN as the new press bully, which doesn't make sense to me since they're kicking CNN's derriere. The bulk of this appears to be on daytime programming. I don't see hardly any of this at nights. I would suggest avoiding their daytime programs. That's all. I've said my piece. As always, stay safe, watch your six, and don't tread on me.